Welcome, Ralf, to the Targetic website pages. It's a great pleasure to talk with you about the band and this new album, Collapse into Chaos, where the band continues with the sound achieved over the years and one of the most solid band in Switzerland. So tell me, what does the band do stay active from forming at birth at 2001 to this collapse into chaos?
Well, as you can imagine, this band Requiem is going for 25 years now,
Yeah.
and can imagine we really so. You're talking about our newest album, which will be out end of June, and it's actually our eighth release. So we recorded new stuff every 2 to 3 years
Yeah.
throughout the last 5 years, and played many tours with all the well-known names. I will not name the bands because they're I can see you have almost all the bands we played with on your wall with your posters. We played with all these bands over the years on tours and festivals and all of that. And we're still going, and we still enjoy what we do. And we're not, as you can imagine, you might have heard the new album. We're not, we play death metal, but we have a strong influence from like a punk background when we were younger, and grindcore as well. A lot of blast beats and all of that, and a lot of lyrics that are about real life topics, about the state of the world and what is going on, and all of that. And we still enjoy it. All of us are in our end 40s, early 50s, so we're doing that. We're playing in bands for 35 years, sometimes more than that, and we still enjoy it, and that's basically it. So.
Yeah. So one thing that is related to the first question is about your 24 years in uninterrupted career with 7 albums, 1 EP. So, but one detail that captured my attention is from the first album, because why the band delayed 4 years to release the first album?
The first album, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, well, look, back in the day when we started, a lot of bands, at first you start something and you start to write songs, and you have to figure out for yourself where you want to go. Like define your style or the genre, or even your musical ability that you have. You first have to figure out
Yeah.
where you're going, and then we wrote a full album. It's not released, and we skipped it because the band back then thought, well, that's not the style we want to go, and that's the reason why it took almost 4 years until Nameless Grave was recorded and released. So that's the reason why, because we had to figure out what we were going back then. It was the end of the 90s, 97 when we started, so
Yeah.
it was a different time back then to nowadays. We had connections to other bands, and we all grew up with the inventors of death metal and all of that, but we wanted to figure out for ourselves where we would like to go.
I've been listening the entire discography of the band from the first album to this collapse into chaos, where the band maintains an intense and punch in the face style in the Requiem sounds, because that's the way of the death metal, and a punch in the face. So you don't complicate with your death metal with technical influence, progressive influence, this kind of stuff. So did any of you think of making, perhaps from the future, and of making more technical or progressive music with the sound of the Requiem?
With Requiem, no. Even though our drummer Reto and I'm a full-time musician. I studied music and I teach music as well, and the guitar players as well. So we would be able to write progressive stuff or more technical stuff, but Requiem is not the band for that. We don't want that. We have, especially with the new album now, we have an approach which says or has a tendency to go into a less is more approach. Less is more, straight to the point. Get the message across musically and with the lyrics as well, and that's what we're doing. We all, like our drummer and I, we do have other projects, and we live a more. Sometimes we play a more progressive and technical style in other bands, but Requiem is not that. It's not. It's not a technical death metal band. It's a very old school, traditional death metal band, but with our own style. So
Yes.
over the past 24 years, we invented our own way of writing songs and of for example, very trademark rhythmic patterns we used over the past 4 to 5 albums, and so on and so on.
Requiem is a band that was on 4 labels, including Massacre Records. Why did the band change labels in the past? And how does it feel to have to return to work with Massacre Records?
That's it's a very good question. As you know, the whole music business and even in metal with record labels, the business has changed a lot. It has changed drastically. I mean, when I started in the mid '80s, there were a few bigger labels, underground labels, and then towards the '90s, when metal wasn't so in demand anymore, a lot of labels just disappeared. And in our case, we started and then we released albums on very small underground labels until our album Government Denies Knowledge, which was released on Massacre Records, and then the LP after that we released with Massacre Records, Premier Killing League. And then obviously, the sales weren't as high as they expected. So, we had the option to release another album with them, but they just basically said, well, I don't know if it's the right time to go on. And so we released albums with other labels as well, and play tours and all of that, and so on and so on. But at the end of the day, forward to 2020, when our newest album, Collapse into Chaos, was ready, we just sent it to the people, because the main guy who runs Massacre Records is still the same guy from back then. So he knew us, and he was really excited because, as I said, the business had changed nowadays with the streaming and downloads and so on and so on. They focused more on earning money with that. And there was an opportunity for us to release the new album. That's basically it. It wasn't always our choice to change labels. It just happens. With a lot of band, it happens as well. It's not always the choice of the band. Sometimes it's just life.
Yeah. From Infiltrate, Obliterate, Dominate from 2009 to this Collapse into Chaos, the covers were made by Dancy Grape. So how does it feel to work with this legend? And one thing is, do you let him create his cover art by himself, or perhaps do you let him some details of the new covers?
Usually it was, well, in the first place, when we contacted him to design the cover for Infiltrate, Obliterate, Dominate, he asked us if we would want to go in a specific corner of his art. And what we basically did was we wrote, well, as I write all the lyrics for the band, I wrote a summary of what all the lyrics are about and the album title and so on, and I sent it to him. And then we said, look, this is the content of the album. You have complete freedom, do whatever you want, just stay within your own style, because obviously, as you know yourself, he made so many great artwork cover artworks for so many different bands, and most of these bands are, were our heroes when we were kids. So and he was totally he's a professional. He's super professional, and he's very communicative as well. So he starts drawing these sketches, and then it's going back and forth. And one advantage we have is that our guitar player Phil, he is a graphic a guy himself, so that's his main job. So he knows all about how to set certain color patterns and all of that. And he basically did the whole collaboration with Dan Seagrave for all the covers with Global Resistance Rising and Infiltrate, Obliterate, Dominate, and Within Dark and Disorder, and so on and so on.
As I said, Requiem isn't a correct band in the metal because your style is intense and have that punch in the face, no? So that's always when I hear a new album from Requiem, it's like that. So how do you take the different opinions from the reviewers, fans, etc., good or bad? And does it affect in any way to some change for the next productions?
Absolutely not. We're one of the, well, a lot of bands say it, but we actually live it. Look, for us, Requiem is a creative vehicle for all of us. Our singer and our guitar player, they both have families, they have kids, they have regular jobs. So Requiem is it's like a vent for us, to process what is going on in the world. It's almost sometimes a vent of frustration. And in the first place, we're doing that kind of music for us. Now, we are absolutely happy and very, very thankful, grateful when other people like the music as well, obviously. We played so many gigs with that band over the past 24 years, and we're absolutely grateful that there are people in Europe and all over the world that actually like what we're doing. We're absolutely grateful for it, but we're doing it for us. And we are never driven by what reviewers are writing, or if someone says, look, come on, guys, what you're doing, it's nothing special, it's shit music. That's an opinion. That's the opinion of someone who says that, and it's completely fine, because music, to me at least, or for us, music is like food. There's some things you like, and there's stuff you don't like, and that's basically it. Music and culture and arts in general is something that needs complete freedom, and that's how we live it. We are absolutely independent from reviews, or if magazines like our music or not. We're just doing it anyway. And we that's the way we do it, because we don't have to earn money with that band. We don't, and that's an advantage because it gives us complete freedom. But again, I'm absolutely grateful if, especially now talking with you, there's a magazine on the other side of the world that is interested in our music, and I'm absolutely grateful for that.
Okay. So one thing that came to my mind all the time, that the Requiem is a common name into the metal world. So
Yeah.
perhaps one day in the future, or perhaps did you present a statement to you are the first band with the name Requiem, something like that, no?
I don't think so, because I don't know if we are the first band with that name. I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe not. But over the years, so what the question is very interesting, because I'm talking to a lot of people at the moment because of the new album, obviously. And a couple of other people from magazines asked me if we ever intended or thought about to change our name, and I always say no. It was never in our mind to change the name, just because there were other bands with the same name, but most of them played different styles of metal, and all of them broke up. So we're probably the longest running
Yeah,
band with that name, as far as I know.
as far
The
as you.
world the world is a big place, you know. I don't know. I know of a band called Requiem from Las Vegas in the United States, but I don't know if they're active again because we had contact with them many years ago. But other than that, I only know of a Finnish band with the same name, but they played more like a gothic kind of metal, fantasy stuff, you know, very melodic. Definitely not death metal. So the answer is no. Yeah.
Okay, okay, good. So until here we speak about the band, about the new album, about the entire discography, the cover arts. So now we will focus on other kind of matters that exist into the heavy metal, like the revival of the vinyl, revival of the tape, the underground movement, the mainstream movement, the new forms of hearing music, as you said, the digital
Mm.
platforms, and I think that yeah, one thing more, the Swiss is, I didn't, so it's Switzerland, because I know a little about Deutsch, and I always pronounce Switzerland. That's in Deutsch. It's Switzerland.
Switzerland.
Yeah,
It's well. I have to say I am originally from Germany.
yeah,
Originally, but I live in Ireland now, but I lived many years in Switzerland, obviously. So in English it's Switzerland. In German it would be pronounced Schweiz, or
Schweiz.
in French La Suisse,
Last is.
or in Italian La Svizzera,
Oh, whoa.
or in Espanol it would be La Suiza.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, bueno, into all this kind of matter. So the first question goes to the this new form, this revival of the vinyl and tape. So what do you think
Yeah.
about this vinyl and tape? What do you for the revival? Because many fans around the world, especially here in Latin America, thinks that the vinyl and tape are the best ways for underground bands, and according to them, the CD only expand the collection. So, for you, what are the best ways to hear metal music, and why the people are so inclinated to this underground
Mm.
metal concept? And where is Requiem located? Is an
Mhm.
underground band, or perhaps it's a mainstream band, because Massacre Records is one of the old and big labels in Europe.
Mm. Okay, the first part of your question. To me personally, I grew up buying tapes and vinyl LP. That's how I discovered music in the first place. You know, from my parents or from older brothers of friends in school and all of that. And to me personally, I don't. We moved recently. I don't have a record player at the moment, but I will buy one. So for me, it's listening to a vinyl LP is almost like meditation. You know, it's a like a ritual. You know, you
Yeah,
take it out of the cover, put it on, and then that sound when the needle hits
yeah,
the vinyl. You know, it's almost like magic to me, at least. So I like that. I like listening to CDs as well because it's more practical, maybe, you know. And I can listen to CDs in my car as well, so I can't listen to a vinyl LP in my car, obviously. So to me, that's that. Now, when the whole MP3 thing came up, I have a lot of music on my computer as well because I travel quite a lot, and it's very easy to take a lot of albums and songs with me on an iPod, or you know, on my laptop and all of that. It's very practical. I like that. But to really celebrate music, I personally must say I like listening to vinyl a lot. I personally I don't do streaming. I don't have a Spotify account or a Deezer or Amazon Music or whatever is out there. I don't have that. You know, it's just not me. Maybe I'm too old for that. You know, it's just not. Now, tapes, to be honest, tapes, even back then when I was a kid in the 80s or in the late 70s, even tapes, they don't have a long shelf life. You
Yeah.
listen to them 20 times, 30 times,
It's a
and
crap.
then they're gone, and then you get
Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it's gone. It's basically, I think it's a shit format.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
nice to collect. I still have a lot of. I was big into tape trading back
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the 80s until the mid 90s. So when tapes from bands like Autopsy or Sadus or bands like that, when that came out, we traded tapes with them. And so I have these tapes at home still. I'm not a big collector, but I keep the stuff I've for a long time. But tapes don't work anymore nowadays. So, and that's what I think about it for Requiem, especially, and for the scene. I think vinyl LP, especially in rock and metal music, it's just the size of the cover for us as metal fans. The cover artwork or artwork in general is very important. We want to read the lyrics, and the lyrics on a CD, even they're so small, and the cover artwork is small too. So it's better to have it in the format, in the size of the vinyl LP. It's much better, and I think that's what people like. And when people come to a show and see a band play that they like, and then they go to the merchandise table and they buy a shirt, and they can buy the vinyl LP too, and it's a to have something in your hand, that physically in your hand, this is the music, it's almost like I said, it might be a little bit magic. Now in pop music it's not the same. And the second part of your question, if we consider ourselves still an underground band, next year we are 25 years old. We played hundreds of shows, many tours in Europe. We never played outside of Europe because it just never happened. And I think a few people across the globe know us, but we consider ourselves still an underground band. We're definitely not a mainstream band.
Okay. So one thing that you said in the previous question, the last answers, is about it's about the new forms of hearing music, because the iPod, the cell phone, they are the most practical way to hear music nowadays, especially for these new generations, because this generation doesn't know what is the vinyl, what is the tape, what is the CD, and they into this matter they this new generation love to put one, two, three, at maximum four songs into the digital platform. So, and they love to do this kind of playlist. This is playlist with one song of an album. So what do you think
Yeah.
about the albums doesn't have the same impact compared to the 80s and 90s? And what does band needs to do to improve the listenings of all songs in an album?
Mm. It's a very interesting question, and I don't think I have a final answer or a solution to it, because it's as you know, it's a topic a lot of artists, a lot of bands talk about, because as we all know, the value of music in general decreased from the 80s until now. And it's for a lot of people, music isn't worth as lot as it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Unfortunately, that's just what it is. Because when the downloading thing happened, with, of course, when the internet was a mainstream thing in the beginning, people just downloaded music for free, and they thought, yeah, well, it's fine, I can listen to one song here, one song there, and so on and so on and so on. And that's just it changed the way we listen music, and especially the younger generations. Now, in rock and metal, I don't know how it is in Latin America, but in Europe I know many younger people, they could be my children, just from the age. I know a lot of young people, when I see them at festivals, they buy vinyl LPs. They want to listen to the full album. Now, I don't know if if it's thousands of these people of the young generation. I don't know that. I suppose it's a lot. You know, people read, especially metal fans, younger metal fans. They like having stuff. They like collecting stuff. You know,
Yeah.
but on the other hand, how many? It depends how much money you have. How many albums can you buy each month? You know, it depends on how much spare money you have on spending. You know, and so I don't blame people that use streaming platforms to list, because it's very, it's very practical. If if you see, oh, that's a new band, I want to listen how they sound, you just click in, and then you can listen to one song, and then okay, they're playing, I don't know, traditional heavy metal, or they play whatever, speed metal, and you figure that out within a short amount of time. Um, Unfortunately, like you said, a lot of people tend to listen only to singles, or maybe two or three songs from a band, and then they skip on to the next. I don't know if there's a solution to it. I personally think an album is like a concept, not a concept album, but an album with songs that are written in a certain amount of time, like with our new album. Everything was written within, let's say, 6 to 9 months. So that's it's like a snapshot of our creativity at that particular moment, and it's on that album. So when people listen only to two or three songs, they might not get the whole message. That's what I'm saying. So I would really love for people to take the time and listen to a whole album if they want to find out more about a particular band, for example. I can understand if they don't have the time and they just want to skip through songs from 10 million bands in a day, whatever. It's fine too. It's a personal decision, but I think personally an album is a snapshot, like a photograph, or a like a painter paints a picture. He paints a picture, and when that picture is finished, it will be like this forever. And that's the same with albums as well. And if you want to get the whole message, you have to look at the whole picture, or listen to all the songs on the album.
Great, great. So one thinks that this around this this pandemic, so how do you see the situation of the bands in the face of this new pandemic? How this is affecting the musicians, bands, and the crew behind the curtain, behind the festivals, gigs, tours, etc., etc. Because also into this matter, the majority of the bands live with shows or gigs in different parts of the world, they were selling their merchandise. So T-shirts, CDs, tapes, whatever they sell. No? So what do you think about this whole concept of the pandemic, and what is your opinion about the streaming concerts? Will you do it?
Mm. We talked about it. If we would do streaming shows, we agreed on not doing it. We won't, just because we're not that kind of band. We're used to playing clubs, or sometimes festivals, and that's us. It's just a personal choice. In general, the pandemic, for people that work in the music industry, I myself, as I said, I teach music. I have students. I teach music theory and bass, but I am a guitar and bass technician for international touring bands. So I didn't work since last year March. I no gigs. Usually I would have one band, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 shows each month. Somewhere in Europe, or even in the US, or wherever. So I didn't work. Now I had to somehow, like a lot of my colleagues who work in crews for international, for big names, touring bands. They had to find other jobs, and it's very, very hard to do that. if you haven't learned anything else. Now, fortunately, I always, had students. I can teach and make a little bit of money with that. But a lot of people I know, they are stuck at home. Especially, I talked to one of my crew colleagues last week, and he works in a supermarket at the moment. For almost over a year now. Because you have to pay bills. That's just what it is. It's just so. What I'm saying is, it's not about complaining, because we will survive. We will survive. As long as we have a roof over our head and enough to eat, we're fine. And people who work on festivals, on tours, or in the music general industry in general, we're very pragmatic, and we adapt to situations very, very fast, because you have to. And it's the same with the situation as well. So if you have to get another job somewhere in a supermarket, or if you sit in an office on a computer whole day, or if you're in a call center or whatever, then just do it, because we have to. I hope that next year, at the latest, I hope it will happen this year, that there will be tours again. That the whole thing started now. I think it will be different. In Europe is a different situation than in the United States, or in Latin America, or in Australia, and so on. All the continents, they have different situations at the moment. So I think I seen that some bands. I saw a tour announcement for Deicide, Cataclysm, and something I think in June or something, or October. Yeah, you're right. In October in the US. So that looks good. It looks very promising that the whole thing will start again. I don't know when it will start here, because at the moment where I live, the government is very cautious, so they will wait. So and. That's it. And for the future, I honestly, I don't know where this is going, because, to be honest, let me ask you, would you like to go to a metal show where you would have to sit down on a chair with a mask and just watch the show seated? That it's exactly. That's why I said we won't do streaming shows, and we won't do that as Requiem, because that's not us. We want people to enjoy themselves, have a mosh pit, or people banging, or whatever. Or if you watching the show and you feel thirsty, then go to the bar, get yourself something to drink, and come back. It needs. I think metal especially needs that kind of freedom.
Great. But at the mid of this year, I see that Bloodstock in UK will go on. Bloodstock with
Yeah.
5 dates, and I saw too that Backen is will go on too. There's no postponed for next year's. Hellfest, other festivals in Europe will postpone to next year. But these two festivals is still going on. So do you think this is still festivals going on because we are in May and just left 2 months, and these two festivals run without problems?
Yeah. Now, like I said before, different countries, different situations. In the UK, at the moment, it looks like they will make it happen, just because they, vaccinated so many people, and they think at the moment it looks safe. Now, I don't have a crystal ball. I can't look into the future, obviously. I don't know. We will see. I think festivals in the UK will happen, I think, this summer. Now, in Germany, to be honest, my parents still live in Germany, so I talk to them regularly. It doesn't look very good, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think, UK looks fine. I think other countries in Europe or on the world will have shows, but it depends when they will start again. Like you said, most bigger festivals are postponed to next year. So next year, I think 2022 will be more or less safe to say that you will have these traditional metal festivals that we all know, like Maryland Death Fest,
Yeah.
for example, or stuff like that. Um, Hellfest and so on. But I am not about Wacken. I'm not sure. Some bigger festivals in Germany said they have a safety concept. So that would mean people could go there, probably need a test that they can get on the festival grounds, and then they might have to wear masks. I don't know.
Eh,
You know.
So we are very close to end this interview, and now we will focus on the scenes from Switzerland. So which always prevent that have something special with the bands with Hellhammer, Celtic Frost, Coroner, and Requiem. So but there are many bands from your country influence others in the world. So Switzerland disappear a bit from the radar in particular things. So what do you think about the Switzerland is a bit withdrawn with the new bands, and thanks to the Hellhammer, it could be said that your country was an important milestone into your European black metal, perhaps the first one.
Mm, I think so. So yes, it's very true that these like bands, especially we're very good friends with the band Messiah from
Mm.
Switzerland. I worked for them on tour and festivals, for example. So they were one of the first bands, and obviously Hellhammer, Celtic Frost. Then at the same time in the 80s, Coroner and yeah. I mean, yes, they influenced a lot of other bands. Why newer bands are not so well known from Switzerland, I honestly think that's because the music industry has changed a lot. I play at the moment. I play in a Swiss speed and thrash metal band called Poltergeist.
Mm.
It's it started in 1987. A few people. It's very underground, but a very old band. And there some people know it, others don't. But new bands, as you know, Switzerland is a very very small country, very small, and it is usually when you play music in Switzerland, people don't take you seriously. You
Mm.
know, it's in Switzerland. It's not considered a real job when you're a musician.
Okay.
So that means the younger bands they have a normal 9 to 5 job, and then as a hobby they play in bands. Now, to get more well known, you have to play live a lot. You have to tour. You have to work really
Yeah.
hard, and a lot of people don't have that time because they have their standard 9 to 5 jobs, and they can't focus entirely on their bands. I think that's one reason, and the other hand, obviously, yeah. I mean, Hellhammer started something that they didn't know that they would be so influential nowadays. Obviously, they were kids. They were teenagers when
Yeah.
they did that back, and they just like a lot of bands like from Latin America, for example, bands like Sarcophago or Sepultura, for example. Bands like that. They were kids when they started that, and they didn't know that they would become famous or that they would tour the world and that people would know them. No, they didn't just know. So I think it was just maybe a coincidence, maybe fate, who knows. But it's very true. that Hellhammer and Celtic Frost especially influenced a lot of bands like Goatwhore in the US. They're heavily influenced by that. A lot of Norwegian or Scandinavian black metal bands are or started their bands because of Hellhammer and so on and so on. So and who knows? There might be newer bands, younger bands someday from Switzerland that will become famous. It happened before. At the moment it might. I don't know if it's the same in your country, but if you're a Swiss band, people in Switzerland, they wouldn't be really interested in you. So you have to play in Germany, in the UK, in France. You have to play outside of your own country first.
Yeah.
And then people in your own country would say, oh, they play outside of Switzerland. Aha, there must be something. They must be special. They must be something. They must be doing something really good. So, and that's another reason why it's sometimes really hard to build a following, because people in your own country, when you start, they are not so much interested in you. It happens later. It was the same with Requiem as well. It took us 10 years, almost 15 years until radio shows asked us for an interview in our own country.
Yeah.
So it's I think it's normal. It just happens.
Yeah, here is the same. Here is the same because in Spanish exists a phrase that uno no es profeta en su tierra. It means in Spanish, it means in English will be we are not prophets in our land.
Yeah.
So
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why many people when they hear a band from here, then they think, I don't like that music. But if the band sounds in every country where they play in other cities in other countries, that's good band, really, because it sounds outside. But depends because the band, but for that depends for the public here. 20, 30 years and the band still recognized after 20 years because Mortem from here at the beginning but now Mortem, Mortem is a great legend from Peru. Mortem, wow. So many people from 15, 20 years old know Mortem, buys physical copies, t-shirts, go to the concerts here in Lima, in Cusco, and wherever, in other cities too, in Peru. So in South America it's the same. When Morten appears in the world, no one catch attention. No one. From Chile, Brazil, no one. But now it's different times. Old school, that revival, Morten, wow, legend of the legends. That's really so.
That's interesting. Yeah.
No. So now focusing in a probable tour here in Latin America, because as you said, Requiem has never put a foot here in this continent. So, what are your requirements to have a tour here, and with how many people do you travel on the world doing this tour?
Usually it's just us. It's just a band. Sometimes it depends when we're driving a long time. We sometimes have a friend of us who drives the van, but usually it's only the band. So there's 5 of us and sometimes a driver, but that's it. We're not one of those bands. We don't have a crew. We have sometimes at festivals, friends help us out, but that's it. Because we're all used to do our own stuff, and we're very quick, very fast with our, technical stuff with the amplifiers and the instruments and setting all up and so on. We always did it like that. We're a little bit like Napalm Death, for example. They just do their things by themselves. Sometimes friends help them out, but that's it. And talking about the requirements, as I said, we don't. Requiem is not a band. We don't have to earn a lot of money. We just want to. We can't afford flights or petrol and all of that. We can't pay everything from ourselves, out of our own pocket. So as long as the travel costs uh, are paid, then it's fine. We would play, to be honest, we would play anywhere in the world. When someone wants to invite us, we're happy to do it. Absolutely. Obviously, when we would come to Latin America, or if we would come to Peru, then I mean, obviously, it would not be worth for only one concert. It would probably need, like, I don't know, three, four, five shows, or maybe a small tour in through different Latin American countries, for example. It would make more sense probably for a promoter to do it like that. But we absolutely would do it as long as the travel costs would be paid, and as long as we would have something to eat and a roof over our head to sleep at night, and that's it. And the rest is music, and just let us have fun.
Great, great. Well, one personal question is about your tastes about in the bass player. So when you play death metal or extreme music, what instrument do you prefer? A bass with 5 strings or a bass with 4 strings to play death metal?
Both. It depends on, like I said, I play bass for over 35 years now, and I play both. And I usually pick the instrument and a 4 or 5 string. It depends on the song, Sometimes, and it depends on the key the song is in. So sometimes it makes more sense to use a 5 string, because then I can obviously go more lower. I can sometimes play the same that a guitar would play, just an octave lower. So it's more a question of the song and the style. But it is, for me at least, it's independent from playing death metal. I do it with all other kinds of music I play. It doesn't matter. I play both. Sometimes I play 4 strings, sometimes I play 5 strings. With Requiem, it would depend what songs would be in the set list. That's how I pick the instrument.
Well, Ralph, the sad moments arrives at this interview. I hope you enjoyed this one as I did. And thank you very
Ah,
much for your time. Congratulations for the new album, it's a good one. Take care and
thank
better
you.
wishes from this part of the world. Any last words from your fans in Latin America who are waiting Requiem for many years and are getting readers?
Thanks very, very much for the interview. It was very interesting, because some questions you asked, I never have been asked these questions. It's very interesting. And I'm absolutely grateful for, if people in your country or in Latin America like our new album. And yeah, we would absolutely love to play your city, or the cities in your country. And maybe, who knows, one day we'll meet not only on the screen of a computer, and we meet in person.
Yeah.
It would be our pleasure to
Thank you very
play.
much. For me too, it will be a pleasure.